Well, hello everyone. Today I would like to demonstrate my game that I've been working on for a little bit now called Suits of War, and it is a rank and file war game where you use a single deck of cards with each player only using the cards from one single suit, and those are all the cards you're going to have access to as a player. So your options are pretty limited. But that makes for some interesting, some tactical decisions. At least I think so. So I'm going to do a setup and then run you guys through a couple of turns, and I'll explain what I'm doing and how the game works as we go. Okay, first of all, I'm going to go over some basics of the game. Now, in this game, cards represent your units, and different cards, of course, represent different kinds of units. For example, my king over here is my leader. A queen and a jack represent cavalry. Odd numbered cards represent melee units, and even numbered cards represent ranged units. Now, in addition to just using cards to represent units, measurements are also done using cards. There are no rulers or other measuring devices here. You're going to be using cards, and the way that works is a unit can either move a short distance, or which is the length of the short side of a card, or it can move a long distance, which is the length of the long side of a card. And other than that, cards are also used to resolve combat. Now, in addition to representing the different kinds of units, a card's strength is also determined by the number on the card. For example, a 5 of spades, because it's an odd number, I'll knock the camera there, because it's an odd number, it would represent a melee unit with a strength of 5. Similarly, 6 of spades would be a ranged unit with a strength of 6. Kings, jacks, and queens all have a value of 10. Now, to start the game, of course, you have to deploy your units. And how you do that is you have to deploy 1 or 2 cavalry units, 1 or 2 melee units, and 1 or 2 ranged units, and a minimum of 1 of each and a maximum of 3 of each. You also deploy your leader face up, and all the other units you deploy face down. So your opponent doesn't exactly know who they're going up against or what units they're going up against. It adds a little bit of a tactical depth and a little bit of surprise, and of course a bit of surprise adds a little bit more fun to the game. Now, like any good war game, you have to determine initiative. Now, the remaining cards that the spades player have in his hand are these, and the hearts player will have these in his hand. So what we're going to do is, to determine initiative, we're going to shuffle the remaining cards, and each side is going to flip over 1. Okay, you get an ace, which is valued 1 in this game. Ace is low. And here, 2. Well, the hearts player is going to have the first turn. Now, speaking of turns, when it's a player's turn, they'll activate 1 unit, and then after they've activated the unit, play goes over to the opponent. And when a unit is activated, you will use some token, and this is really the only extra bit of material that you're going to be needing to play this game. And you'll mark the activated unit with a cube or some token or anything lying around. Anything that you got lying around. Now, since the hearts player has 1 initiative, he's going to activate his one of his units first. So he's going to sort of peek below here and decide, okay, well, he is going to activate one of his units, so he is going to flip over the unit revealing what it is, and then he's going to activate it. Now, melee and archer units always move at a range or distance of a short length for their normal movements. Okay, so what are our options for activating? Well, you can move 2 short distances, or your 2 long distances if you are a cavalry unit. You can move twice, So you move the distance. So I'll measure here 1, 2, and I sort of put my finger there, and I can pivot if I want to, and I move in that direction. And that is it. My unit is activated. So I'm going to mark it with a cube. Now play goes over to the spades player, and he's going to sort of peek behind and remember, well, he's got his first cavalry unit, his queen. Now he is going to try and take this objective. Now, one of the things you will do is, if you want to turn before you move, you hold your finger on one of the corners and then rotate up to 90 degrees. So he could rotate this way, or he could rotate this way. And because it's a cavalry unit, you're going to be able to move 1, 2 long sides and end up right there. And I use my cube to activate, or to show the unit has been activated. So I guess I should have explained a little bit of the scenario. This scenario is a basic take and hold the objective scenario, and a normal game lasts 4 rounds. A round is over when both players have activated all their units. When that happens, the round is over, and we remove all the activation cubes, and the game continues with the next round. Okay, so I've gone ahead and activated all of the units on both sides except for the 2 leader units. The 2 leader units have not gone, so you can see they don't have cubes on them. And now it is the hearts player's turn. Now I'm going to use this turn to explain a few different things. Okay, so first of all, the leader has a special ability called command. To command is, what it sounds like. Any unit within 2 long distances of it, so 2 long sides of it, they can command. By commanding, they make the target unit, take a whole extra turn. So let's activate this Queen of Hearts, and the King of Hearts is going to activate the Queen of Hearts. So that is his cavalry unit over here, and this cavalry unit is going to pivot. Or shift, or not shift, turn, and then move 2 straight links. So you have to turn before you move, not after you move. Now the king of spades over here, he is going to command, and well, he has some options. Okay, so let's explain a few options. Let's demonstrate melee combat by activating, commanding our 7 of spades. So he is going to turn around this corner, and then he's going to move. And so if you are going into melee combat, you are declaring a charge. So he's declaring a charge, meaning you can move up to two of your movement distances, and to come into direct contact with an opponent's unit. So he is turning and then moving. Well, he only has to move a short distance, and he's going to try and line up as well as he can over there. And now melee combat is going to happen. Okay, when melee combat happens, both players look at their hands and choose a card that they want to use for their combat. Okay, so, and this is called the combat card. So the spades player is going to play a 9 of spades, and this player knows he needs to play at least a 7 to beat, or to at least equal the other player. Well, since he's not being attacked, I know that that ties are broken by the attacker. So he would probably want to play something that's higher than the 7, because he's going to have 10, and so he can get a maximum of 17. While this player can, he knows his opponent can get a maximum of 17, while he can get a maximum of 20. So you probably want to play something a little higher. So, well, let's say in this case he underestimates his opponent, and he's going to play this 7 here. Okay. Now we once both combat cards have been played, we are going to reveal them. Whoops. And oh my gosh, I'm just knocking everything around. Now we can see what we have. We have a 9 of spades plus 7. A total of that is 16. And the total of the queen, who in this game is worth 10 points, 10 strength, and 7. So 17. In this case, the, well, 17 and 16. Well, the hearts player has won. Since the hearts player has won, or the queen of diamonds has won combat here, the spades player's number 7 melee unit, or 7 of spades melee unit, is going to take a wound. Now, we have to find a way to track wounds, and how we are tracking wounds in Suits of War is pretty simple. You look at your hand of cards and you look at the value or the strength of this card, which is 7, and you have to take a card of valued equal or lower, the next equal lower card in your hand, and place that on top to represent that this card has been, or this unit has been wounded. Now, this is a 7 of spades, meaning it's a melee unit. It is wounded. Now, it doesn't change the type of unit it is, just because this is now an even number doesn't make it a ranged unit. It's still a melee unit, but now it's only got a strength of 6. Now you can see how this can become a problem as the game goes on, because after combat cards are played, they are discarded. So your options are going to get increasing, or you're going to get less and less as the game goes on. So this could be quite dangerous. Let's say I had combat and I played my highest card, which is maybe a 10, but I still lost combat, and I cannot play the 9 because the 9 is higher than my 7. And so the only card I could use to determine or to represent my wound is going to be my 4. So this 7 is going to go down all the way to a 4 in a case like that. Now, after combat has been resolved, if both units, attacking, defending units, are still on the board or on the battlefield, the attacking unit needs to move back at least one short edge or one short distance. Now let's take that back one step and say, for example, the king did not activate its melee units, its foot soldiers here of strength 7. Maybe he wanted to keep this for a later attack, or for some other reason he wanted to activate his archers or his ranged units of strength 8. So to do that, we have to determine if we are within range and if you have line of sight. Let's talk about line of sight because that's the simplest to explain. If the attacking unit, the ranged unit, can draw a straight line from both of its corners to anywhere on the target unit, then it has line of sight. So from this corner to the queen of hearts, there's a straight line and it's not obstructed. From this corner, it's pretty easy to see that it can trace a straight line to the queen of hearts without being obstructed. So he has line of sight. Now, the rest of combat works in a similar manner. We are both going to choose cards to play from our hands. So let's say he really wants to hurt this queen. So he's going to play this 10. He's going to play it face down. And the queen really wants to defend. Or maybe he underestimates his opponent a little bit and he plays, I don't know, a 6, right? Now let's see what happens. They flip over here. The attacking unit has a strength of 8 plus its combat card is 10. So that's 18 versus 10 plus 6 is 16. That means our ranged archer unit has successfully wounded our queen of hearts. So we have to go through here and look at a wound card. We got to pick a wound card which is equal to or less than our queen, the value of our queen that got wounded. So we can play this 10 because it's equal. The queen is 10, and I can play this one and place it on top there to keep. I can still see it's a queen, still a cavalry unit, but now it has a value of 10. Well, in this case, it's not too bad. It didn't really change anything, but it does mean that my 10 is out of my hand. I can't use it to attack in future rounds. I can't use it to play as a wound card, so it's out of my hand. Let's say I did not have that. What are my next options? Well, 7. So wow, that's a pretty hard hit. It went from a 10 all the way down to a 7. So you can see how this playing cards, because you have such a limited pool of cards and numbers, it becomes a dangerous dance. Later, as combat continues, as the battle continues, you will have fewer and fewer cards in your hand, meaning your options to place as wound cards becomes less. Your options for attacking becomes less. Now, what happens if you run out of cards? Now, if you run out of cards completely, you shuffle your discard pile, and you're back in action. You got a hand full of cards again. You got more options. Or if it is the start of your turn and you only have one card left, you also shuffle your hand. You shuffle the discard pile into your hand and you start again. So having a look at what the opponent has available in their hands, how many cards, could also mean that you want to play more aggressively. Or if you have fewer cards in your hand, you have fewer options than your opponent, you may want to play a bit more defensively. So that, this sort of back and forth with this actually makes the game pretty interesting, at least in my opinion. And that sort of concludes the demonstration. And I hope that gave you guys a good idea of how the game plays. And I will put a link of the game in its current state in the description below. It is on my itch.io page, so please go have a look at it there. Like I said, it's still game in development. This is just the idea. I've made it as legible and tried to explain as well as I could. I put diagrams to explain how movement, combat works, etc., etc. And so I hope you guys will go check it out and give me some feedback if you have, and let me know what you think about it. And I'm going to continue developing this game. I think the idea is pretty good, and hopefully add some interesting scenarios. I also have plans for adding different races with special perks and skills and actions and whatnot. So those things are all planned for future releases. And because you're only playing with cards, while it's quite abstracted, you could easily play this as a game of Napoleonics. You could play this a game. It could be a sci-fi game. It could be whatever genre that you want to. It could be that. And yeah. So again, thank you for checking out this video and checking out my game, Suits of War. I hope you guys will go have a look at it. Again, link is in the description to my itch.io page. Please go have a look at it there. And thanks again. Have a nice day, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Bye-bye.